President Obama will give his farewell address this week from his hometown of Chicago. According to the White House, he's expected to take an optimistic tone as he reflects on his 8 years in office. He continued his exit tour today, though, on ABC's This Week, where he addressed President-elect Trump's affinity for Twitter.
I've said to him, and I think others have said to him, that the day that he is the President of the United States, there are world capitals and financial markets and people all around the world who take really seriously what he says, and in a way that's just not true before you're actually sworn in as president.
Let's bring in our panel. David Morey, Democratic strategist and the CEO of DMG, Republican strategist, Washington Times columnist Matt Mackowiak. Gentlemen, nice to see you.
Hi, Leland.
Nice to see you, gentlemen. So, David, start with you here. You know, we heard sort of a very congenial, even sort of thoughtful president right after the election, the first 2 days after the election. And then all of a sudden, you seem to sort of have these times that he can't help but take little swipes at Mr. Trump. Do you think we're going to see that in this farewell address as well?
Well, I think we'll see a transcendent president. I mean, there is politics involved in this transition. No big secret. I think Matt and I will agree on that. But this is a president who some people think was elected because of 3 speeches. In '04, the keynote, his race speech in Philadelphia, his speech on the Senate floor opposing the Iraq War. You can argue this is one of his most important speeches in his lifetime, because he's got a chance to define his legacy, and we can talk about that further. He's got a chance to lay out some sort of transcendent recommendations, if you will, to his successor. And he's obviously going to argue, Leland, that America is pretty great already. I mean, let's expect that in the argument.
Well, and we've heard that argument, especially when you saw Josh Earnest on Friday talking about how great unemployment numbers, how more people have been put back to work, et cetera, et cetera. Matt, in such a partisan atmosphere, is the cake already baked? You know, this tradition goes back to George Washington to give a farewell address, but back then people didn't have Twitter, and it seemed as though there was a little bit more of a fraternal atmosphere in America. Does it matter what the president says in terms of his legacy on Tuesday?
I think it matters just in terms of preaching to the choir. I don't think he's been persuasive for some time. I think he was persuasive in terms of defeating Mitt Romney for re-election, but really, since then, he's not done much that's been really a big part of his legacy. His legacy was really defined in that first term. He did inherit a recession, but we've had really weak economic growth since then. He's going to be the first president since World War II not to have at least 1 year with 3% economic growth. The stimulus plan failed. They didn't reach the goal they set. Dodd-Frank's been a mess. Obamacare, his signature achievement's going to be repealed. These are serious problems.
So David, does he just preach to the choir, or are you going to see a we're all in this together kind of moment?
No, I think he'll do a little more than that. He's at low 50% approval rating. That's probably going to go up when he leaves office. Look, I think he's going to defend a mixed but positive legacy on the economy. Just pushing back a little on Matt, the worst recession following the Great Depression. If you look at the numbers, purely the numbers, unemployment about in half, chopped in half. The deficit has been cut in half according to percentage of GDP.
Yeah,
S&P has tripled
and the debt is up 87%.
Well, as a percentage of GDP, it's cut in half. Now, you can argue these things different ways.
Should this speech, Matt, be about an argument, or should this speech be about a thank you and America's a shining city on the hill? And there's a big difference there.
That's right, and let me just say, from a personal standpoint, I think President Obama is someone who you can admire. Good husband, good father. He's handled himself well as president in a personal way, but I think the results are where he has a big problem. Look, you have 3 ways to judge presidencies. Did you get reelected? Did you have bipartisan major accomplishments? And did you get succeeded by someone of your own party? He's one for 3 out of those 3, and so I think he's going to try to shape his legacy with this speech. Unfortunately, he doesn't get to write the history. The historians do that. The results are where he has a problem.
Well, George W. Bush was famous for saying that it was the historians who will write the history long time after we leave, although people tend to do it now in 140 characters. Gentlemen, thanks for being here. We appreciate it.